Welcome to today's explainer. Man, I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through this material because today we are tackling a subject that really intimidates a lot of people, but honestly, it shouldn't. We're pulling directly from a highly practical 2026 guide by the 3015 Tennis Academy to bring you the ultimate beginner's tennis survival guide. Look, if you've ever wanted to pick up a racket but felt totally lost about what gear you actually need and what it's going to cost, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to decode all that confusing jargon and set you up for success right from day one. Does this sound familiar to you? Our source perfectly captures the beginner experience, stating, "Walking into a sporting goods store as a new player is overwhelming. There are 40 rackets on the wall, prices range from $25 to $300, and nobody explains the difference." I mean, it is so validating to hear experts admit this. Starting a new sport is hard enough without feeling like you need an engineering degree just to pick out the right equipment. So our goal today is to be the person who finally explains the difference to you, clearly and simply. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap: overcoming tennis gear overwhelm, finding your first racket, why court shoes are absolutely non-negotiable, essential accessories, avoiding beginner mistakes, and finally, stepping onto the court. This structure is going to save you money, prevent injuries, and honestly, save you from massive frustration. Section 1. Overcoming tennis gear overwhelm. Don't fight your equipment. The fundamental rule here: you should never have to fight your equipment. It's crazy how many new players walk onto the court and spend their entire first year basically wrestling their gear, rather than learning the actual game. To avoid this, you've got to avoid the extremes. The source explicitly warns against two very common traps. The first is overspending on high-end, premium gear that, frankly, you just don't have the skills to utilize yet. The second trap is grabbing the absolute cheapest option on the wall. You know, that $25 racket that feels like a heavy frying pan and vibrates right up your arm? Throughout this explainer, we're going to outline the exact middle ground specifications. It's that sweet spot that provides quality and forgiveness without completely breaking the bank. Section 2. Finding your first racket, your most important purchase. Aside from your own 2 feet, this is the single most important purchase you're going to make. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what numbers you need to look for on the label, cutting right through all the confusing technical jargon. First up, head size. You want a racket head between 100 and 110 square inches. Why? Well, because a larger head gives you a much bigger sweet spot. As a beginner, you aren't going to hit the center of the strings every single time, right? This size ensures those off-center hits still make it over the net. For weight, look for 9.5 to 10.5 ounces unstrung. Lighter frames are just way easier to swing while you're learning the mechanics. For balance, you want something slightly head-light. That simply means the weight is closer to the handle, making it feel highly maneuverable in your hand. And finally, grip size. For most adults, you're going to want a size 2, which is 4¼ inches, or a size 3, which is 4�3/8 inches. So, what should all of that perfectly balanced, highly forgiving engineering actually cost you? According to our 2026 guide, a great beginner racket with these exact specs costs between $60 and $120 brand new. We are explicitly debunking the myth that you need to drop $250 on a premium pro player frame just to look the part. In fact, an expensive pro racket is actually harder for a beginner to use. Stick to this $60 to $120 range, you'll learn faster, and you'll have way more fun for sure. Section 3. Court shoes are non-negotiable. Protect your foundation. So the crucial point is that if the racket is your tool, your feet are your foundation. We really need to understand the profound difference between the running shoes you might already have in your closet and proper tennis shoes. Running shoes are engineered for one thing: forward motion. They're designed to propel you straight ahead, and because of that, they entirely lack lateral or side-to-side support. Tennis, on the other hand, demands constant, aggressive side-to-side movement. Tennis shoes are specifically built with strong lateral support to lock your foot in place during those sudden stops and quick directional changes. I seriously cannot stress this enough, and the source is totally adamant about this fact. Skipping proper court shoes is the single most common cause of preventable beginner injuries. If you try to play a match in running shoes, you're at a very high risk of rolling an ankle because the shoes simply won't support your foot when you lunge to the side. Court shoes are absolutely mandatory to stay safe out there. Please do not skip this. And because they are mandatory, you've got a budget for them. You should expect to pay somewhere between $70 and $130 for a pair of proper, supportive tennis shoes. Knowing this expected cost anchor upfront means no nasty surprises at the register. Plus, it's an investment in your safety and your ability to actually keep playing week after week. Section 4. Essential accessories and extras. The incidentals. All right, once you have your racket and your shoes sorted, we need to round out your bag with the smaller incidentals that make a day on the court actually work. Let's run through it quickly. First up, pressurized tennis balls. A can of 3 runs about $3 to $5. The guide actually notes that beginners specifically benefit from low compression balls. They bounce a bit slower and give you more time to react. To carry your gear, a basic 2-racket bag will run you $25 to $50. You'll also want to grab a few overgrips. These are those thin tapes you wrap around the racket handle to absorb sweat and maintain a firm hold. Super cheap, just $2 to $4 each. Finally, keep in mind that periodically, you'll need a basic restring, which typically costs between $15 and $30. And hey, speaking of strings, our source provides a really specific, brilliant piece of advice for beginners. When you do get that restring, ask for soft synthetic strings at a lower tension. Why lower tension? Because it acts sort of like a trampoline. It actually generates more power for you, and it's significantly more comfortable and forgiving on your arm as you learn to hit the ball cleanly. Just before we leave the accessory section, let's briefly touch on apparel. You definitely do not need a fancy country club wardrobe, but you do need moisture-wicking athletic clothing to stay comfortable. And remember, the 3015 Academy Guide comes out of Southern California, where the sun is no joke. But even if you don't live in SoCal, protecting yourself from the elements is vital. A hat or visor, polarized sunglasses, and good sunscreen absolutely belong in your bag every single time you play. Let's move to Section 5 and see how this builds. Avoiding common beginner mistakes. What not to do. Okay, we've covered what you should buy. Let's synthesize this by looking at what you absolutely must avoid. Now, what's really interesting about this is the overarching theme of these 3 major pitfalls. Mistake 1, buying a pro-level racket too soon. As we said, it's less forgiving and it just won't help you learn. Mistake 2, skipping proper court shoes, which leads directly to injury. Mistake 3, ignoring your grip size. If your grip is too small or too large, you end up squeezing the handle incorrectly, and that causes severe wrist and elbow pain. Actually, when you look at it, 2 out of 3 of these common mistakes directly lead to physical pain. Getting your gear right isn't just about playing better, it's quite literally a health necessity to keep your body safe. Section 6, stepping onto the court. Your final tally. We've gone through the racket, the shoes, the incidentals, and the pitfalls. It is time to look at the bottom line. According to the guide, a complete, safe, and effective beginner setup runs roughly $150 to $300 for the whole shebang. That covers a forgiving racket, proper lateral support tennis shoes, balls, a bag, and grips. When you break it down like this, starting tennis is actually a highly accessible endeavor. By following this roadmap, you aren't guessing, you aren't overspending, and you are getting exactly what you need to succeed. And of course, having the right gear is really only half the equation, right? The other half is getting out there and learning how to swing. Our source material today comes from the 3015 Tennis Academy. If you happen to be in the Glendale, California area, they offer programs for ages 4 and up, catering to everyone from absolute first-timers to competitive juniors. You can find them at 651 Glenwood Road in Glendale, or give them a call at 818-722-3015 to pair your brand new gear with some seriously excellent coaching. Which brings us to the end of our explainer. We've decoded the jargon, we've mapped out the costs, and we highlighted the absolute safety essentials. So armed with exactly what you need and exactly what it costs, the only question left is this: are you ready to stop fighting your equipment and finally hit the courts? The gear is out there waiting. Go get it and enjoy the game.